Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for inspired conversations with publisher Linda Joy. On Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Beautiful soul, are you yearning for sacred community? Now more than ever, women are being called to gather in sacred circle for connection, community, and transformation. If your soul is shouting yes, and you yearn to come together for life circles twice a month with other women on the path of self-discovery, while also having access to a transformational curriculum of over 50 classes taught by leading visionaries, then you'll feel right at home on the soul-nourishing virtual campus of Inspired Living University. The doors only open a couple times a year, so be sure to get on the wait list at inspiredlivinguniversity.com. I am so excited that you're all here with me and my special guest today. You are in for a treat. I'm Linda Joy, host of Inspired Conversations, mindset elevation coach, intentional living guide, and publisher of the beloved Aspire magazine. Have you ever wanted to create change? I know I have. And many times I would say I wanted change, but I'd stop before I ever got started. And I knew there was a story there of what was preventing it. Well, in this inspiring conversation, author Becca Powers joins me to offer practical advice that you can use to unleash your potential and become everything you are meant to be. The lessons, tools, and techniques she shares are designed to empower you from the inside out. Becca is the author of A Return to Radiance, the power method to ignite your soul and unleash your potential, and harness your inner CEO. A Fortune 500 high-tech sales executive, keynote speaker, and CEO of Powers Peak Potential, she has worked with industry giants Cisco, Dell, Royal Caribbean International, and Office Depot. With an impressive record of leading large teams and hitting 500 million in annual revenue, Powers has earned the coveted President's Club Award 7 times. A certified Kundalini yoga teacher and Reiki master, she lives in Florida, and you can learn everything about her at beccapowers.com. Becca, I am so excited to have you here today, my friend.
Yes, Linda, I've been waiting for this one. I love your energy, so I'm super excited.
Well, I love your book. I have it right in front of me, and as we were talking, before hitting record, I just love the message. I love the whole commitment to guiding women and men in living from the inside out. I think it is the key to transformation. I know it is from my own journey after I stopped chasing everything out there, always feeling empty. And I think your message is so needed right now, my friend.
Awesome. I appreciate that. I do too. I do too.
So, what led you to write A Return to Radiance? I always love to hear the backstory because I always believe that sometimes our own mess leads to our message. Is that true for you?
Oh my God, yes. And so it's a two-part story, but the roads intertwine and I'll keep it short, but it started with having a really cool childhood. I was born into musician parents. My parents were full-time musicians in the late 70s, and they had a popular cover band in Indiana. They even at one point opened for Johnny Cougar, which is now John Mellencamp. But I was always just around music and dancing and singing and joy and people where I would like to say like in their radiance. And as I grew older and the responsibilities, work responsibility, kids, bills, things like that weighed heavier on my parents, they definitely got committed more to their quote unquote career rather than their calling. And they they stopped having as many gigs, and I saw them disconnect from the radiance. And in hindsight, it was probably one of the more painful things I had to witness because I went from seeing someone who I was born into witnessing them in their full joy and in their talents and their gifts and their strengths and expressing them to two people who were just, on the hamster wheel of life. And both of my parents fell into a depression, and my mom passed away at 46 and my dad passed away at the age of 62. So by the time I was 35, I lost both my parents. And at that same time of around 35 years old for me, I was in a toxic work environment where I was a senior leader. I was raising 4 kids in middle school. So I was falling into the same trap my parents did. I was I wasn't writing, I wasn't speaking, I wasn't doing any of my community stuff. Like I would say community and communication are some of my most favorite things. And I was just head down and all the responsibility. And 2, 3 years into that, I was also grieving my dad, but I lost my mind one day after work. How you said the mess leads to the message. So I walked in to the house one day after several bad days in a row, and my kids walked up to me and they're like, "Mom this, mom that." And I lost my mind on them. I'm like, "Can I put my freaking purse down?" And it was not one of my more glorious moments in my life, but it was one of the most important ones because I saw how my lashing out impacted my children. Like, time slowed down for a moment, and I needed it too. I saw how my reaction caused them pain, and then all of a sudden, I'm like, "Who am I becoming?" And later that night, I was getting ready for bed, and I looked at myself in the mirror and I couldn't even recognize myself. Like that spark, like you're talking about
Yeah.
inside out living, that spark, that sparkle in my eyes was gone. And I'm like, who am I becoming? Like, what am I chasing? What am I doing? And the overwhelmingness of all those thoughts sent me to an emotional collapse on the bathroom floor. And here I am on the outside, this big, powerful powerhouse of a woman. And what's happening in reality is I am in the most powerless state I've ever been in my life. And I'm crying on the bathroom floor. So, to wrap up, the where did all this come from is while I was laying there on the bathroom floor, I had nowhere to go but up is what I like to say. So I call out to God universe, like, I need help. I can't do tomorrow the same way I'm doing today. And I only know how to do that. And I got a whisper, like a voice from within came to me, and I call it my instant miracle because it was like, Becca, you're the CEO of your life. And that thought was so powerful that it propelled me off the bathroom floor. And I didn't know how I was going to tackle the next day, but I knew I had it. And I just vowed to myself that I would never hit the bathroom floor again. And so then I spent the next 2 years healing, and we'll get into the full story, but I returned to my radiance. And then I was like, oh my God, if my parents knew how to do this, they might be alive. How many other people are just in that space of grinding, hamster wheeling, and disconnected from their radiance? Like maybe I can use the framework I used on myself to help other people. And so that's where everything came from.
I gotta tell you, your story and your vulnerability, your authenticity, even in that sharing you just did, but even in the book, that's what drew me to you.
Thank you.
Because I'm one of those women like you, a story for another day, that my mess, my dark night of the soul, which I've been on that bathroom floor with you, girl, led me to this work. And once you experience something like that, as you have, as I have, and maybe some of our listeners have, you can't go back. You
No.
want that
Mm-mm.
joy. You want that. It's like you become face to face with the true essence of who you are, and you don't want to lose it. You only had that moment of like, oh my, and now you're like committed to really honoring that and bringing it into your life. And it sounds like that's exactly what you did. And I think it's the storytelling too, and the truth and vulnerability that I know just listening to that story that there's a woman right now going, "Oh my God, that was me, but I didn't
Yeah,
know the way out," right? Maybe they're still in that moment. Maybe they're experiencing it right now, Becca. And just hearing that story of, hey, there is hope, even when you're curled up on the bathroom floor. There is a path, there is a way. And thank you for writing a book and doing the work you're doing in the world to
thank
help
you.
us, return to our radiance, our truth, our joy. Because there is another whole way of living, isn't there?
There is, and, when you're in it, like you're talking about, it's hard to see it, but, when you hit that floor, you're all of a sudden like, "Oh my gosh," like, especially when you get up from it, you're like, "There's another way," and like you said, you wanna stay in that space of honoring your truth and what really is available for you. I mean, I think, Linda, one of the most mind-altering things for me, and we talked a little bit about this before we hit record, is that all the things that I was chasing that led me to the bathroom floor came as a outcome of me prioritizing my own health, my own hobbies, my own joy. My income increased, my health increased, like all the things that I was like killing, quote unquote, like killing myself for, right? Happen naturally. And that's the cool part about doing the work.
It's the everything, and I mean, we're gonna take a break because 'cause I'm like, "We're gonna miss a break because I have so much to share with her." Let's take a break, Becca. We'll come back so we can really dive into this. We'll be back in a moment, my friend. You're listening to Linda Joy and Becca Powers, author of A Return to Radiance. Grab a copy at beccapowers.com. We'll be back in one moment.
Inspiration for a Woman's Soul. Aspire Magazine, inspiring and supporting women on the path of self-discovery. Claim your free digital subscription today, which includes access to thousands of dollars of personal development bonus gifts from Team Inspiration partners. Claim your Aspire Magazine subscription today at subscribetoaspire.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations, and with me today is Becca Powers, author of Return to Radiance. And I got to tell you, just what you just said about that chasing, striving that actually led you to the bathroom floor was like the energy, which I've been there. 30 years ago, I had my documented no, God, 34 years. My daughter's 40 now. She was 6. So, boy, I'm getting old, huh? So, I had that documented the soul too, and something you just said, it was like when you got up off the floor, mine happened sitting in the car on the side of a road trying to contemplating whether I wanted to still be here or not 34 years ago, and hearing that same intuitive voice that reminded me of my truth. It wasn't like I drove away that day suddenly transformed, but something, and I'm curious about how you described when you got up off the floor that day, something in me on a visceral level um, had been shifted.
Yes.
And my trajectory, my life trajectory suddenly shifted. So I tell people it wasn't all magic and butterflies and all of that, but it was an internal shift in that my darkest moment. And it sounds like you had that too. So when you stood up, you might not have had answers that day, but you knew something was going to be different. Was that feeling for you too?
Yeah, absolutely. I have the goosebumps head to toe as you're describing that because it was a strong inner knowing. I didn't
Yeah.
know what I was gonna do the next day. I didn't have the choice to take a 2-week sabbatical and go backpacking in Tibet or anything like that. I had to go back to the same place that basically drove me to the bathroom floor the very next day. But I just knew I had it. I don't know how to explain it, but like you said, something in me shifted, and I knew without truly knowing that my trajectory had shifted too.
Yeah, and this whole inside out message, I'm not going to share the whole story. I want to share the moment because it's so similar to what you experience. And if someone's experiencing it right now, if they're experiencing that moment on the bathroom floor, My awareness after that moment, when I got in the car, I was thinking of, do I want to be here anymore? And the only thing that shifted in 15 minutes was that moment that I heard my inner truth, divine source, share a message with me. And then I had the internal shift, which it sounds like you had. And when I started the car, I probably 20 to 30 minutes later and drove away, my awareness was this, Becca, and it's like, okay, nothing in my outside world changed, but suddenly something in my inside world did. And in that
Yes.
moment of awareness means I was at the lowest point 20 minutes ago, but nothing in my life changed. Why do I have hope and possibility now embedded in my soul? Did you feel that too, that like knowing something I can never go back to just happened?
1000%. And I just appreciate you sharing that because I say that all the time. I'm like, this is the power of the shift. Like for me, it was my whole world shifted in less than 3 minutes. Like I went from feeling the most powerless I ever had. I was so much in a weakened state that I couldn't even call out to my husband for help. I didn't have enough strength to stand up. And then my truth spoke to me and I'm up off the bathroom floor with more energy than I've had in years. And I'm like, I got this. And the only thing that changed was me.
Yes. And it's hard, right? Like I can have that conversation with you because you mirrored your conversation to me. But trying to put into words what we experienced, I've been doing it now for 34 years, still trying to find the words to describe it in a way that it gives people hope that that is within all of us.
Yes.
Right. So that's been my mission now since for 34 years. And I can tell you're passionate that we want everyone to know that that power, that radiance is within them. So let's talk about one of the things I got it bookmarked because I absolutely love it. Through this whole journey of yours, you created the power method. And
Mhm.
I love the acronym. And I think it's really important that we talk about that before our other break comes up in about 8 minutes, because when I read it, I was like, oh my God, just hearing the breakdown. So would you share the power method with the each word of each letter
Yeah,
of it?
I would love to. So we start with the P, which is protect your potential. And I won't get into all the details of it, but just a little bit of the concept is we were born with our potential and intact. This what Linda and I are talking about. We are already whole. We are already all these things. We never learned how to protect it. So that's where I like to start the journey is like, hey, here are some tools to help protect your potential so you can be in your radiance. And then once we get through that, then I shift it to the O, which is own your opportunities. And what I'm looking to help the, reader or person that is, in the formula with me get to is own your opportunities. You have the opportunity and chance to shift your mindset. You can choose the meanings that you assign to things. You can choose to discover and align to your values. We have a lot more choice in things than we think we do. And when we start leveraging that power of choice, we get to change our trajectory by the way we assign meaning to things, the way we associate with things, the way we align to things. And that's really what I'm going for and own your opportunities. Like you can take control and you can choose your trajectory a little bit more than just being in the hamster wheel of it, right? So that's the O. The W is weaken your worthiness. I truly believe, and I know you do too, just by our conversations, but I believe we are all born inherently worthy. And not,
Mm,
we are worthy of our health. We are worthy of wealth. We're worthy of success, love, happiness, joy, all these things. They are innate to us. They are part of our character. We actually get, people strive so hard to find them. And I think that's why we burn out or we end up on the bathroom floor or in a car on the side of the road because we have become disconnected from these things, but they are inherently ours. And so, with waking your worthiness, when we are not when we don't know how to protect our potential and own our opportunities, it's hard to really get into that space of like, I'm inherently worthy of all the things that I, desire. So that's what we focus on in that third pillar is like, now you're here. We're gonna focus on awakening up that worthiness so that you can align to what you truly deserve. So there's a lot of alignment in what's going on in these pillars. And then from there, I get into the E and elevate your energy is the E. And that's really where I'm pulling in the tools. This is where you do the work. It's one thing to get your mindset shifted and realign to get into alignment with your worth and your values and all these things I just talked about. But then you have to have the sustained energy, and that's going to happen through meditation, mantra, breath work, movement. And that's where what I talk about in the E. And then R is rock your radiance. As you go through these pillars, you're going to start shining from the inside out, as like Linda and I have been talking about. And then you get to rock that radiance. Your character is going to start building your legacy. You're going to start elevating impact by you just being you. You're going to start seeing your strengths turn into your superpowers. It's just really incredible. But that's the R.
And ladies, as you're listening to that, could you feel the energy of each of the pillars? Because I know I could when I read it in the book. And I want to talk about that worthiness one because, and I love the word you use, waken, because really we are all born worthy. I believe, and it sounds like you do too, that we're born with this light, with this spark, with this true essence.
Hmm.
And then as we navigate life from childhood on, we pick up stories and muck and other people's stuff that dims our light. And then in that moment that we become aware, you in the bathroom floor, me in the car that day, it's like something ignites within us and we realize it's time to excavate so that light can shine brighter. Does that
Yes.
speak to how you felt like internally, like, girl, why have I been covering this light up? Whatever this is in me that I'm not familiar with yet, but I want more of. If my work has felt like an excavation to get to the truth of who I am and release all the stuff that isn't. That's what it sounds like with the W. It's like that waking up to the truth of who you are and always have been.
Yes. I mean, you nailed it. I have goosebumps from head to toe. That's exactly what I'm talking about is like we have to. And I like some of the analogies you use because if you think about it, we go through life and we take on, other people's ideals, or we, try to be a good girl, or we just try to do the right thing. And the other thing that I have learned a lot of with like leaders and light workers and things like that, there's a high level of servitude to us,
Mm.
and that servitude comes from a good place, but there's a constant giving that happens, and that's why I see so many like high performers, leaders, and light workers burn out is because the giving is just really big and there's not enough coming back in. And I'm like, well, what if you served from your cup full? What if you didn't have to give so much to receive? And there's that concept of you already are. So what if you operated from that space of you already are that thing and that you deserve to be the thing? Like, in an example, I'm owning my inner writer. It's a hobby, it's a passion. I could write and not make it a career and I would be happy, but I am having so much fun expressing these concepts and helping people, but I'm also allowing my gift. It's my inherent gift. I was born with it, right? And I'm allowing it to mature within me. And as a result, I got on the USA Today list. Was I
Yeah.
necessarily trying to get on the USA Today list? It wasn't the intention of writing the book, but I knew it would be a cool goal. But like my point is like I was worthy of achieving it. And so it happened. And that's what I want people to, you know, come back into their spark and be like, "Oh yeah, like I am all these things. I do deserve this and I do deserve that, and I'm doing it from a place of authenticity and joy."
Yeah, I want that for everyone. And one of the things I'm glad you brought up And then we got to take a quick break and we'll continue the conversation. I have a very large audience of light workers, coaches, healers, therapists who follow more, feminine, spiritual principles. And I was one of them who struggled with overgiving at the cost to myself when I first started my
Yes.
business because I had this story way back. I've been an entrepreneur 32 years, way back that, who am I to make money off my spiritual gifts? Well, that was a worthiness wound that was so deep. I had to heal it, and now I see it in clients or friends and peers, and it's a big one. And anyone, if you're in this industry, if you're a coach, life coach, spiritual coach, whatever it may be, and you're serving others and it's costing you your energy, please, please, please go grab a copy of Becca's book, A Return to Radiance. You can do that at beccapowers.com. And we're going to be right back, my friends.
Inner peace, joy, and fulfillment are yours, even if they feel out of reach. When you learn to befriend your shadow emotions instead of avoiding or stuffing them, you free yourself of self-sabotaging patterns, beliefs, and habits that keep you from living your most authentic life. As a life transitions coach, professional certified coach, certified RIM facilitator, IPEC Energy Leadership Master Practitioner, and Human Design Consultant, Mary Jo Rathgeb intuitively and compassionately supports women to shine a light on their shadow emotions so they can reclaim the energy and wisdom contained within. This sacred work frees women to be who they really are and not someone they think they are supposed to be, and empowers them to live a life that aligns with their deepest truth. Learn more at maryjorathgeb.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. I'm here with Becca Powers, author of A Return to Radiance. So I had to give that little public service announcement about light workers because I know my audience and I know they struggle with it. It's almost like a martyr syndrome, right? I
Mhm.
giving and then they wonder why their businesses aren't thriving. One of the things that you write about in the book, which really does tie into this too, is you start the book by saying that burnout is often the main culprit that prevents us from rocking our radiance. And that is so, so true. So tell us a little more about what you've discovered as you've been writing the book and your own journey.
Yeah, so I'd love to talk about burnout. And one of the things that I have found too is that burnout is truly a symptom of us being in our unpotential or disconnected from our radiance. And that was really mind blowing because burnout is such a big topic. I consider myself a burnout expert too. And it was in my research of I did a online survey of around 8,000 people and different working professionals, corporate entrepreneurs, all sorts of stuff. And what I found is that 69% of people were burnt out, and another 29%, which I would consider the probably the high performer slash entrepreneur, were in and out of it, which is a very common state. There's a lot of push, I don't need to explain to you, but anybody who has their own business knows that there's a lot of work, but then you got to get some rest. And anyway, what I'm trying to say is that without tools in place to understand where burnout comes from, the likelihood of most of us burning out at some point is really high. So, what I really wanted to attempt to do in this book, and very early in the book, I didn't want to save it for the middle or even for the end. I wanted to, and like, if someone only reads 50 pages of this book, what do I want them to know? What is a practical tip they can take away? So, listeners, I'm going to give you a real practical tip from the book. I have a framework in the book called The Pyramid of Unpotential. And Linda, I'm going to run through it, but if you want to pause me at some point to ask a question or to dive into something, let me know. But level one of unpotential is called the unders. And the unders happen subconsciously, and it's rooted, or the seed starts in what I call the uns. So we all have human needs. You have Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'm not going to go into all of that, but humans need to be seen, heard, loved, felt important. So when we feel the uns, when we feel unseen, unheard, unloved, unwanted, unimportant, from a subconscious perspective, we start to feel undered. And that means this, so level one the first stage. When you get to level three, you're in burnout. So level one is called the unders, and you're going to feel undervalued, underappreciated, underrecognized, maybe underpaid, underutilized. But if you can put an under there, if you can recognize that you're feeling undered, you can pull yourself out of it. Most people don't know that they're feeling the uns or the unders, but they can tell in their behavior. And this is what I feel is really mind blowing and practical for you listeners out there. You can tell if you're on the path to burnout if you're overing. And it's very simple. This is level two. It's called the overs. If you're overworking, overanalyzing, overthinking, overwhelming, overstressing, you're eventually going to get over it all. But you can tell in your behavior if you're overing. And if you are overing, if you're resonating with this and you're like, oh my God, I'm doing all those overs, peel it back, try to find out what unders you're feeling. Am I feeling undervalued? Am I feeling underimportant? And then what is that? Oh, I'm feeling undervalued because I don't feel seen by my colleague, by my customers, by my partner, wherever it is. But, we were talking about burnout. And so I wanted to give a practical framework for your listeners that if they can understand that's where burnout takes route and or takes root. And so I'll pause there because there's three more levels and I can go through them really fast, but people normally have a lot of questions about the uns, the unders, and the overs. So I want to give you a chance to chime in.
Yeah, so for the unders, it is they're all unconscious, subconscious scripts, it sounds like, that we picked up in our lifetime from our journey that we don't even know is running the show, correct?
Right.
Manifests in our life as the overs, overcommitting, overserving, overindulging. Am I understanding
Yes. Yes. You gave me the goosebumps. I'm like, keep going, Linda. Yes, that's it.
and so, and we identify how it's showing up in our life, which is the number two, overs, and we say, okay, why am I overcommitting and then getting resentful and frustrated? So then you invite them to look at the unconscious unders that are
Yes.
sabotaging their behaviors so that they can make a new choice. That's how I'm hearing it.
Yes. No, you nailed it. Yep.
So please, I'm curious, what's number the rest of them?
Okay. So this is, and I'm glad we took a chance to pause on that because this part is very practical and I use this every day, weekly, whenever I see those the overs starting, I'm like, okay, I can have an opportunity to check myself. But what happens when you don't check yourself? Then we go into burnout. So now we're going to go through the rest of the pyramid of unpotential. And level three is you start questioning your belonging. I'm sure we've all had a job or been in a relationship where we have done all the things, we've over communicated, extended ourselves, some form of over, and then we start like questioning, should I be here? Do they really want me? Should I stay or should I go? I always say that's one of the main questions that come up. And that question, should I stay or should I go, is paralyzing for most people. And so most people say, I'm just going to stay a little bit and see how it works out. I'm not saying that's the wrong decision. We all have to go through our journeys. But if you stay in that too long, you're going to get into heightened states. And levels 4 and 5 are where you start to see a lot of physical consequences for not solving the problems earlier on. And so level 4, if you stay in a state of questioning belonging too long, and as well as the unders and the overs, you're then I call it disharmony in the bodies. And you're going to feel disharmony in your physical body. It may be like clenching teeth, neck and back pain, gut health issues. You're going to experience emotional and mental disharmony, and that could be, stress, anxiety, crying, not being able to cope with things, anger, like how I had towards my kids. It could be isolation. On the spiritual side, you start to lose hope, and things start. That light is dimming, like everything starts caving in on you. And then the other body is financial. Especially in women, we shop a lot when we don't feel like we can cope with something. And I've seen a lot of women stack on a pretty high amount of debt in at level 4. And if level 4 goes unaddressed, then we go to level 5, and I call that devastation of the Ds. That's where I was when I hit the bathroom floor. When I hit the bathroom floor, well, I'll tell you that. So it's disease, dis-ease, I like to say, um, high debt, disconnected relationships. You'll see divorce. You'll see even death, like what happened with my parents. So level 5 is very severe, and I would love for someone not to have to hit level 5. When I hit the bathroom floor, I was on the verge of divorce. I had disconnected relationships with my kids. I was in debt. I had, I didn't know it at the time, but all the pushing through and powering through, I had formed autoimmune disease. So I had a lot to clean up by the time I hit the bathroom floor. And so I'll pause there, but those are the 5 levels. And the reason I spend so much time talking about level, the uns, the unders, and the overs is to prevent the catastrophicness of level 4 and level 5.
I love this. And you know why I love it? Because just the language you use to describe each of the levels, I could identify certain times in my life when I was at certain levels,
Yes.
right? Like because of the way you mapped out this whole pyramid of unpotential, it helps us understand where we are because one of the biggest things I have come to learn and now teach is the moment you become aware is the moment you can no longer play victim to your thoughts and beliefs because the moment of awareness is the moment that you get to choose. Am I going to keep repeating the pattern or am I going to create something new? And these steps that you just shared help us make the choice. It helps us become aware of where we are in that moment. So it is powerful. And we're going to talk about it more. Let's take a break so I can come back and dive deeper into this conversation. We will be back in a moment, my friends. I am with Becca Powers, author of A Return to Radiance, The Power Method to Ignite Your Soul and Unleash Your Potential. Grab a copy and learn more about the extraordinary work she's doing in the world at beccapowers.com. We'll be back in a sec.
Within you is the ability to consciously choose your thoughts and decisions. Making conscious choice transforms everything from your day-to-day experiences to the direction your life takes and the achievement of your dream life. Conscious Choices coach Mary McGuirk empowers and teaches her clients how to make conscious choices to align their thoughts, beliefs, and actions with the dreams and vision they hold for their life. As a master law of attraction coach and desire factor coach, Mary's unique methodology empowering the use of storytelling and her supportive, non-judgmental coaching style supports clients to understand where their predominant vibration is and how they can consciously choose, moment by moment, to create the outcomes they desire. Just beyond your everyday experiences, your heartfelt desires are calling you to life. Learn more at lifejustbeyond.com.
Thanks for joining us. I'm so excited about today's conversation. I have to keep remembering to go to break. So Becca, I think, as I just shared right before the break, the way you created this whole pyramid, it brings awareness to where we are so we can go, oh, that's what I'm feeling. I'm in the questioning, belonging stage. And I think we've all been there, right? At one time or another in our lives. But have you noticed that this whole path that you've created does help people identify where they are so they can make new choices?
1000%. I was like, if we were in person, I'd be like high-fiving and hugging you right now. I'm like, yes. And that was my whole intention. I mean, awareness is the key to change. And when it comes to burnout or dimming our light, whatever words you want to use, um, a lot of people, when they read about it, it's very scientific or it's very academic or very psychology based. And they're like, I don't speak all these words. And it loses attention. And I'm like, I'm with working people, everyday people trying to change the world, build, whether it's their wealth or whatever it is that they want to do. I'm with like entrepreneurs, leaders, and high performers all day, every day. They just want something they can learn in 5 minutes to help check themselves. And so I was really determined to get something that was bite size, something that's complicated down to something that's like bite size and chewable, just for what you said, Linda, for that awareness so people can check themselves and have the ability to make a different choice.
Yeah, and we both want for every listener to never get to the lower stages, right? 4 and 5.
Yep.
And it is possible. And I say that from someone that's been at level 5 multiple times because I was a slow learner back then, right?
Right.
Um, yeah, I was the queen of self-sabotage, financial misfit 30 something years ago, and really could never have seen my path unfold from welfare mom to who I am today, right? And so, I have so many notes on my paper, it looks like a scratch pad here. So those 5 parts or pillars of the pyramid of unpotential really spoke to me, and I think that is a powerful gift you're giving in the book to help them see where they are so they can make new choices.
Thank you.
So let's say someone is struggling with burnout right now. What is the most important thing you want them to know in this moment?
That that's not their true reality, right? Their truth is that they are radiant. The truth is that they're just having a disconnection from that. So what I oftentimes by the time we get burnt out or on the verge of it, we think we are this person. like like this is just like that hope kind of goes. I remember even before I hit the bathroom floor, I'm like, this is just my life. I just got to suck it up and deal with it. Right. You don't have to suck it up and deal with it. You were meant for more. In fact, you are more. And that's what I want people to know is that you already are the more that you're searching for. You just need to go inside.
Yeah, and it circles back to the beginning of our conversation, right?
Yes.
It's about living from the inside out. And for me, when I feel any of the things, as you talked about the unders and overs, if I feel like, oh, I'm overworking to that point that takes away my joy and energy, I am now quicker to identify it in the moment, shut off the computer, go outside in nature, recalibrate. I'm always recalibrating, by the way, and come back into center, into truth, right? It's just creating new patterns so that we can claim our radiance, not go get our radiance. It's already within us. And that's what I love
Yes.
about the message of your book. It's, it's, it's excavating all the stuff that we picked up that's not our truth so we can actually live our truth.
Yes. Ah, and another virtual Air 5. That's amazing.
We're going to be high-fiving. Well, you and I had an instant connection anyway, and then when I got into your book and I'm more than halfway through, I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait for this show. I watched a little video interview you had done. I think it's on your homepage of your website or one of
It
your,
is. Yeah.
yeah. And because I like to tap into people's energy before I have them on. So I just knew that it was going to be a truly inspiring conversation. And one of the things you talk about in the book, you say, we are part of, and I love this conversation, of infinite intelligence, and that infinite intelligence is part of us. So define infinite intelligence for our listeners and then dive a little deeper into that.
Yes. So everyone has different concepts of what things are over and beyond us. But I can only speak for what I know to be true. There was an infinite intelligence that whispered, Becca, you're the harness, you're the CEO of your life. There was an infinite intelligence to you, Linda, that like helped you reframe when you were in that car. And so there is an energy that is bigger than us and infinitely intelligence. That's why I call it infinite intelligence, and so many other people do, because there are there is no end and no beginning. It just I believe that it's endless and that endless possibilities and multiple possibilities and solutions are always present. And so when I talk about infinite intelligence, I bring it to the radiant back to radiance. And I always say our radiance is three parts. It's one part our personality, like who we are. You're Linda, I'm Becca. And then it's one part our soul, and it's 1 part infinite intelligence. And if you think about that, 2/3 of you are cosmic, right?
Mhm.
And if we were able to truly lean into that and have faith, I talk lot about faith when I'm talking about awakening our worthiness. If we can lean into that cosmic part of ourselves, into our soul, into infinite intelligence, and believe that if we rely on it, if we communicate with it, that we in fact are going to have so much support and so much opportunities. The doors open, the connections happen, the joy unfolds. I like to say, like a beautiful unfolding becomes before us. And so when I'm talking infinite intelligence, I am definitely talking about there is something bigger, greater, wider out there that is programmed in us to serve us.
These are my kind of juicy conversations. And I love the phrase infinite intelligence. And you and I have similar thoughts that like when I have a large audience and I have a lot of communities and I tell the woman when I use a word like divine, universe, God, spirit, essence, I said I need you to see past that and fill it in with whatever your source of love is. Because to me, infinite intelligence is pure love, right? And I tell them
Yes.
just tap into whatever that higher part, because it's there, right? And we get lost in those words that people use to label it. And
Mhm.
infinite
Agreed.
intelligence, yeah, I love the energy of that, right? Like that speaks to me. And part of I think that day for you in the bathroom and me in the car, I know without a doubt, Becca, that that was my higher self, my infinite
Yes.
intelligence, because the message came through. For me, it was just a stern, gentle, loving whisper that I swear to God, in that moment, transformed my life, healed my heart, and helped me begin the dance to discover my authentic self. To
Yes,
me,
ma'am.
and that's where that voice came from. I have no doubt, and it sounds like you have no doubt that that's where and we all have access to that. You and I aren't special that we heard that voice. We all have it and are connected to it, but we have so much muck that we don't give ourselves permission to hear it. Do you find that to be true too?
I find that very much to be true, and I think that's why so many people have a life transforming experience when they hit rock bottom as long as they get out of it, and don't take a life or something like that because we're so fatigued, we no longer are controlling anything. We're so fatigued that we're waiting for our miracle. You know, we're like, we need it to get off the bathroom floor. We need it to keep driving. And I think that what if you didn't wait till you needed it? What if you knew you had that available today? Can you surrender your thoughts? Can Every day I wake up and I love life now. I mean, you could tell I'm smiling on the other side of this mic. Like I wake up and I have my conversations with infinite intelligence. I'm like, I call in my most radiant self. I call in my most beautiful self and my higher self. I call in infinite intelligence and I say, you know, I don't always know how to run the best day, but y'all do. So let's have a great day. Let's meet great people. Let's, put me in a position where my soul expands, where my potential gets to make impact. Like I'm very intentional and I have a lot of fun with it too. It's not like I, write everything down and I have all these rules for myself. I let myself be free and set my intentions every day, but I am very aware that it was infinite intelligence and me finally surrendering instead of being a control freak that allowed my miracle of that mindset shift to happen. And so I very consciously approach each day with knowing that two thirds of me is cosmic.
I love that, and I almost giggled out loud when you said control freak because I have an I have another book coming out in October called Divine Synchronicity, Magic, Miracles, and Manifesting. But in my intro for the book, I said I had a T-shirt that said I'm micromanager of the divine, right? Because that is how I held on for 30 something years. And then in the book, I just share a little bit more. But when you said that, I'm like, you think you were a control freak? I was like, I'm like, excuse me, I wanted this delivered at this time and this experience to come. It wasn't until I released, surrendered, and trusted, and everything began to flow. And that goes back to the beginning of our conversation when you got off
Yes.
the bathroom floor and trusted. And we're coming to a close for our conversation, Becca, but God, this could be a 3-hour mini series.
I know. I'm like, I knew we were going to connect. I knew it.
I am so grateful for you, for the work you're doing in the world. And I want to invite everyone, please stay connected with Becca. Visit her website, beccapowers.com. Follow her on all her social media platforms. But more importantly, give yourself the gift of this book, A Return to Radiance, the power method to ignite your soul and unleash your potential. You're worthy of receiving it. You will have all the tools, practices that you need to journey through everything that we just talked about today. Becca, I appreciate you, my friend. I'm so glad that we're connected, and I look forward to staying connected.
Same here. Thank you, Linda.
You're welcome. Until next time, my friends, choose love, choose joy, choose happiness. Blessings, everyone.
Thanks for listening to Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. Join our sacred space every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern and meet leading female visionaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy is a soulful venue where guests share the obstacles they've overcome, along with wisdom and lessons learned on their personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic and soulful living.